There we go. So we will get rolling. So my name's Natasha, and I work at the Canadian Sports Centre Atlantic. I'm here in Halifax, right next to me today, which is rare during COVID time, but we're in the office because it's the afternoon, and this is Kirsty.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kirsty Mason. I'm the Community Coaching Lead at Canadian Sports Centre Atlantic.
So thank you guys for all joining us. Thank you for joining us for our daytime session. So we do these podium performance sessions normally in the evening, and we've started offering a couple of these daytime sessions for those that are able to make it. And as we grow our Atlantic Canadian pool of coaches, we're getting more and more coaches who are interested and available during the day and a mix at night. So thank you so much for joining us live on a daytime session. We very much appreciate it. I'm going to introduce our speaker today, and we're very excited to have Fabian joining us. So Fabian McKenzie works at CBU, has been there for 21 years, which is awesome, and especially for a coaching position. That's a great big thing to have on your resume. So welcome, Fabian. He's worked with the women's national basketball team as well for 11 seasons, has been 6-time AUS Coach of the Year, as well as U Sport Coach of the Year. So very big resume, joining us today to talk about team culture. And I'm going to turn it over to you, Fabian.
Okay. Thanks, ladies, very much for inviting me to speak today. Very excited to do this for everybody and talk about culture. A couple of things. This is season 22, if we have a season. If we have one. We don't know what's happening right now. It's just up in the air. And you know, it's actually been 13 years with the national team, and our season was chopped down with that too. So it's this Corona is just hurt everybody, and we're waiting to see now. I'm currently coaching the junior team for Canada, so we're waiting to see where or if or what we're going to do for a season next year for Canada basketball. So totally uncertain times, but I'm going to share my screen to get started here, if that's okay, and I'll start this. So there's my contact information for anybody that wants it to contact me. I'm open to discuss anything at all. Not just culture, but I absolutely will discuss culture. Today, I'm going to try to get through some things. If I'm too fast, slow me down, ask questions. I can go down a ton of rabbit holes here. I just love to talk about things and stuff that I've experienced. Most of this stuff, probably, I've stolen everything in my 48 years on this earth of coaching stuff. So steal things, be a thief, take the ideas, but make sure they fit for you. Try to get the best ideas you can and then share them with everybody else. What I'm going to give you is not the perfect blueprint. It's by no means the perfect blueprint, but it's what I've been able to pick up over the years. One thing about culture, it's such a buzzword now, and I know I appreciate being asked to speak about it. I think we do a pretty good job of it, but it's always, you know, it's an evolving process. But culture is such a buzzword. And if you actually Google it, I did last night just to see for fun. I Googled team culture. 4.2 billion hits. 4.2 billion, not 4.2 million. That's billion with a B. There's so much stuff out there. And a lot of it, I think, what I call is fluff. There's a lot of fluffy things in there, and everybody like reads the articles and they're great, but how do we live it? That's what we're going to talk about today a little bit. I'm going to try and give you a number of exercises you can do and try to live those. Feel free to ask questions about them. I'll send anything to you to update it afterwards. And if you got stuff that really worked and was really effective, love to have it. Love to share it. So a little bit about my background, again, just quickly, is I'm born in Glace Bay, Nova Scotia, so small town boy, but been here at CBU 22 years. Been coaching for longer than that, but been here with them and got my undergrad at University of New Brunswick. And I coached up there when I was in university and stuff. So in all kinds of experiences all over the place. So it's been really neat to pick some things as I've gone. But I've had the really fortunate opportunity with Canada basketball, which I think we have an excellent culture, which I'm going to share some things about that. I've done course conducting with the NCCP, and I've coached everything from junior high school and JV high school to the national team. So everything. I've seen it all. So I've probably seen a lot of things you've experienced as well. So I can share whatever I have that might help you. And again, definitely not perfect, but some things that we can share. So what I would like to do really quickly is I want you to type in your chat box, but don't hit enter. I want you to type in your chat box who you are, where you're from, what sport you coach. And then when I say hit enter. We're just going to click it. It's going to be like a lava flow of who's here in the room, so we know exactly who's who. So take a second to type into the box, and we'll give you a minute to, again, who you are, where you're coaching, right, where you're from, and we'll go 3, 2, 1 and hit the enter and see if we get a flood of name. We should be able to see this, correct, ladies, if it comes up on the screen? And so we've got volleyball. Good, okay. We've got Ottawa, nice. Nice, we got people from all over. All right, like I said before we joined in, Shania, she's an up-and-coming star down here. Cole Harbor, nice. Cycling, excellent. Thanks for doing that. I just want to know who's in the room and where's everybody from, and you know, what they're doing and where they're coaching. So the first thing I want to talk about, and this has really hit me since this pandemic, is what do you think about when you see this? I guarantee you every single person in the room says, oh my God, I got to plug my phone in. I have to right now. Find me a charger, right? Not many people let the phone die, okay? They want to recharge their batteries. This is crucial for us as coaches as well. If we're going to build culture and lead culture, we have to recharge the batteries, all right? I've learned so much over the pandemic about this, about myself and what I need to do to charge the batteries. But so think about this when you're coaching every day and when you're working every day, that you need to recharge. You need to find ways to get away from what we do every single day, okay? So keep that image in your head about, you know, recharging yourself up, okay? One thing we talk about all the time with our program and with the national team program where I got this, my mentor in the sport is Mike McKay, and I've known him for a long time now. It's getting up there, over 25 years, I think it is now. But he's been a mentor of mine, and he's given me a lot of things. And one of the biggest things he's given me for working within a culture is this piece, and it's championship culture, is the ABCD. It's agree, build, challenge, and dig deeper, okay? When we discuss things, we always say ABCD that, right? And I might say, I agree, but why do I agree? So I agree with Kirsty, but why, right? I want to build on this. So, you know, and Kirsty, I see that we laughed there, so maybe Kirsty, nobody agrees with you anytime, but so you agree, you build. Maybe Kirsty says something, I said, well, I want to build on that, right? But one of the biggest ones we need is the ability to challenge. The ability to challenge somebody and go, hey, I want to challenge that thought. I don't agree with that, but do it in a safe environment where we accept that, okay? We promote this. We do it all the time with our kids here at CBU. We do it all the time at the national level. I'm working with this all the time with younger kids when I do workouts. Let's do an ABCD, and dig deeper is like double clicking the mouse. I need to know more. What's behind that, all right? So anytime today, we can ABCD anything, all right? We can dig deeper. We can build, challenge. That's okay. We're in an environment where we're trying to share, okay? So I'm going to go to a small little activity that I want you to do, okay? And it's called coins. You're going to be sent into a breakout room. And this is not one of those silly little activities, all right? Sometimes you do activities, and a lot of team building activities are great, and people have guest speakers. Those are great, but they can wear off, okay, quickly. This one, I think, can have a bigger impact on what culture is really about, okay? So when you go to your room, I want you to think of 3 to 4 things that make you feel really, really good outside of what you do every day, outside of cycling, volleyball, tennis, basketball, whatever it is, outside of that, okay? And so I tell people to share from my standpoint, all right? I love to travel, right? I've been like that since I was a kid. I love to travel. So I get excited by different cultures, different people. I love to help people, right? And in helping people, I'm studying decision-making and how they learn. I'm really, really, like, I've been diving into that more as I get older as a coach. It's that decision-making. It's how to help people get better. And I love to cook and bake, right? My wife says that's why I'm still around, because I know how to make a good cheesecake, right? But I can really do some good things in the kitchen. And I absolutely, since I started university, I was a chance encounter with something. I absolutely love magic. And I've learned how to do a lot of things, become what they call an amateur magician. And I use it when I travel in a power to connect with people. When there's a young kid who can't speak the language and you can't speak theirs, but yet things start changing into other things, and one of their coins becomes a Canadian toonie or something, and I give it to them and they're astonished. There's a connection without even talking to people, all right? So I want you to go into a breakout room for 3 minutes. maximum, maybe 2, and chat with each other about your coins, what they are. Okay? So ladies, if you can fire some people in the chat rooms, and away we go.
You guys should be able to join your room now.
I'm going to stay out of the rooms and let them just talk, okay?
Yep, sounds good. And we'll do the same here, Fabian, so that we can bring everyone back.
Sure.
Yeah. And you will see sometimes if people are on a mobile or other, they may not be able to join the room, but it looks like most people are joining.
Good, that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, there's maybe one in each room who wasn't able to join, but I think you'll at least get conversation in every room. Yeah, you should.
Perfect. Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
Should you maybe pause the recording?
Some of you may have done this activity before, and some of you may have done stuff similar, but this activity for me is all about the whole culture piece and what it's about. If you could, and I can go gallery here, I guess, and see everybody's screen. If you could, if you found some people in your group that had similar things, can you put a thumbs up or a clap or some kind of a notification? One of your reactions. Okay, so we had a couple. All right. Did you learn anything really interesting about somebody or different? Like, oh, that maybe doesn't seem right. Or, you know, it's not what they, you know, a first appearance. Anybody have that? Okay, because that normally when I say cook and bake, people are like, okay, but they kind of chuckle at it. But we're just trying to find out those differences, okay? But here's what I call tiebacks, all right? The tiebacks to what we're doing here, all right? The tiebacks to this are simple, right? Take your coins with you is number one, right? A genuine smile, that's money. It's money in your pocket. It's free, okay? You need to inspire yourself before you can inspire other people, period, right? Too often we get wrapped up in who we are as coaches, who we are as our results, right? I've got this many wins or this many awards or whatever. It's not necessarily that. It's what I want you to do is make sure you take your coins with you. So no, when you're having the shittiest day, right, and things aren't going right, you have these other things to make you who you are. Your identity is not a coach per se, okay? So take your coins with you. I want you to be a coin collector too, and teach your athletes to use this to be a coin collector. So look at people. What do they tell you about themselves? What can you learn about them? Identify their coins, and maybe there's a great connection you can have when you find out what you have in common. So when you find out what you have in common, it might be a TV show. It might be a novelist, you know, an author that you really enjoy. It might be an experience you shared somewhere. You get to feel each other, right, without the fake, yo, I feel you kind of thing, right? You want to make sure that you feel comfortable in each other's space and you connect with each other. And when you do that, when you find the connection in people, as you all know as coaches, when you find that connection, you light them up. And when you light them up, they start to share and they feel good with you and a connection starts to happen. And that's what you need to have great culture. That's the starting point. So I always talk about coins right off the bat, okay? Connecting with people, very, very important. And this is something that is all the way through our Canada basketball system is this connection, okay? The next piece here is, what is culture, all right? We talk about it all the time. What is culture? There's 4.2 billion hits on Google about team culture. But what is culture, all right? We've done a lot of work with Canada basketball. With permission, I've been allowed to share our pyramid with you, right? This is our blueprint right here. And if you look at the base, right in the middle is culture, right? The thing that holds everything up and makes everything pivot around it is culture. That's the most important thing, all right? And all the other things are great, but without our culture being excellent, our success doesn't happen, right? Our success with Canada basketball has come from, 15, 16 in the world to 4 in the world right now, in a country with a low population and all kinds of other challenges, but our culture doesn't let us see those things per se, right? So we've built that culture. So when I talk about culture, all right, culture it's what your program is all about, okay? It's what we do and say, the way we behave, the way we treat each other, our community, and ourselves. That's our culture, right? We see that every day in how we live in our regular culture, but our team culture, this is it. It's the personality of your organization. It's who you are, all right? So when I talk about this too, it's the culture is what your program's totally all about, okay? And here's what I look at for culture. You need to have your values and beliefs as the base. Everybody says this is going to be our culture, but you don't have your culture until you have your values and beliefs in place. You have to have yours as a coach, but you also can work with the athletes to build theirs and see what theirs are and try to intertwine the both, right? Because you want it to be more directed by them, okay? Values and beliefs lead to change in behavior. Change in behavior then results in your culture, all right? We are doing some things. We've had a review of some things we wanted to change with our basketball program here in Cape Breton. And we've identified some different things we want to take it a little differently. Some things we start to value a little more. We are changing the behavior now during our COVID season, right? And we're trying to kind of realign the culture, okay? So one of the things that I've done with my team, I stole this again. I can share this with you. I have no problem sending it to you, anything else. But the athletes have had a lot of fun with this. And we have a championship values tournament. So just like the final 64 in the NCAA, we identify values that we really like. And then it's the building relationships values. So those things are like respect, selflessness, courage, responsibility, caring, honesty, being adaptable, flexible. Those are the relationship ones. We pick 8 of them and we put them on the left side. And we took the performance ones, the discipline, the teamwork, the tenacity, the challenges, the work ethic, the consistency, the passion, and we put those values on the other side. And we boil it down to a final 4. And the athletes compete through this. They talk about which one matters more. And this is where we really get into our ABCD, right? So if we had, let's say, accountability and collaboration in the first bracket, they get to discuss that and they go at each other, but not from a point of I'm right and you're wrong. They go at it of I'm going to challenge you because this is why I feel this is more important, right? And it's why they feel. It's not all about, oh, I think this and I read this. It's I truly feel these things. And this is why we feel that way. And we have it boiled down into a tournament. And they've had a lot of fun with this. We're not finished with it yet. But it's something that you can do with your athletes to have them involved. And what you will see is what I've read about with this and talked to other coaches who've tried this. It comes down to the values almost match up with yours anyway, almost all the time. The values don't go straying off too far. Elite athletes kind of think in the same mold. They just sometimes don't know how to express it. And it comes out in this one, okay? So this is a thing. I can send this to you. If you want to email me, make a note. I can send the actual PDF of what I got, and you can see everything, how they do it, okay? But we end up finding out what's important to us and the team, all right? Another thing we do with regards to culture and exercise that we do, and this is more individualized, we've identified our values. We think about where we are with where we want to be, and then we get into championship culture. We use these 5 things. For our behaviors, so we've identified our values and our beliefs. For our behaviors, I'm going to start, stop, increase, decrease, and maintain. And again, Coach McKay gave me this years ago. We've used it forever. So I want to start, ... It could be getting more sleep. It could be eating better. It could be working on my left hand or working on, my touch on the soccer pitch. It could be anything like that. And I want to stop. I want to increase this behavior, decrease this one, and maintain this one. They really start to figure out like what their strengths and weaknesses are and where they are with it and what they're good at, which is a good thing to hold on to. I want to maintain this. I'm good at this. I'm going to increase this because I'm good at it, but I'm going to increase it a little bit, right? So they start to see more the picture of themselves with how they live within this values, okay? So with that, like I said, the fun stuff is all fun. It's good, but what's necessary is you have to live it, okay? The concepts that you teach and you learn through the values have to be brought forward and they have to be hammered home every day. There's some great team building activities and all those things. If anybody has some, I'd love to get them, right? Because I always love to think about what the purpose of them are and how we can use them. But you have to hammer these things home all the time. And this is a great way for them to understand who they are in the whole picture, all right? With that, I ask this question to coaches all the time. Do you need to win all the time to have a championship culture? Okay. And I don't think you need to win all the time to have a championship culture. All right. But you can't win consistently without one. Okay. Because there's been a lot of teams with great culture and they just don't win. There's a lot of reasons you don't win, as we know. Sometimes referees sneak in there. Sometimes it's just a bad shooting day on a basketball court, or, you know, volleyball, you were just off a little bit with your touches and, you know, things didn't line up where you needed to go. Those things happen, all right? But everyone has a culture. It's not just a winning culture, right? But if you have a championship culture, you put yourself in the place to win more often, I feel, to be more consistent. The best culture in my sport, in the NBA probably, is the San Antonio Spurs. They've been talked about forever in the NBA. But they haven't won in a couple of years, but their culture is still fantastic. They still have the same values and beliefs, right? So you don't necessarily need need to win all the time, but you need to have the championship culture. Another thing with this as well is culture's dynamic. It's not static. It's everyone in your organization creating it every day, what you think, say, and do. That's what it does, all right? That's where it comes from. And it's led from the top down, but it comes to life from the bottom up. You cannot go in and hammer this stuff in and say, this is how we're going to be. This is how we're going to be. If your people don't live it, it's not going to survive, right? It's got to be led from you, and you help them discover it, but it's got to come from the bottom up, okay? Culture is very little about what we say, very much about what we do. Again, if we don't live it, it's never going to play out, and everyone needs to take responsibility. Right? If you want to live the culture, what we want to create, you got to have that responsibility to do it. One of the things I tell people too, and we are to have a tendency as coaches to look at results, and especially when we're young, it's results, results, results. I had a meeting with a young hockey coach here last week, and he said, I want to win. I want to prove myself. I said, well, we have to look at how you prove yourself, quote unquote, right? Because he just thought winning was the only way. And he all about his talent, talent, talent. But one of the things I say to people is culture's not always what you put in, but often it's what you take out. This has been a crucial one for me. I had to learn to make some tough decisions, and I had the most talented basketball player I have ever seen in the Atlantic University Sport Conference. There was nobody like her I've ever seen, and she lasted basically half a year, and I get rid of her. I'm not saying that to be hurrah, hurrah, look at me, all right? It's about what we had to take out because our culture was being affected. All right. So sometimes you got to remove things. The things you remove might be the people, but also the behaviors. Sometimes you're on a good path. You just have to realign. We're trying to realign some things now. So it's just about realigning your philosophy and who you are and what you do. Okay. So what does a championship culture need? Championship culture needs these three things, I feel. Direction. What is it? Where are we taking this thing? Okay. The commitment every day. What's rewarded will be repeated. We know that as coaches. So if you see something, say something. And we have to build that commitment into the younger people in the organization, where if you see something, you say something. And right now, I'll share with you one of the things we've done. We've been really trying to take this and change it around in our program. In our workouts now, we don't have our whole team here. A lot of the other AUS schools do. We don't. So we're doing it like 2-on-2 workouts, 3-on-3 workouts. That's all we have here. And the athletes have every power to stop the drill when something's not done technically right and stop and say, do it over to their teammate. Myself and my assistant, we're just there to oversee and say, hey, it's not you did this wrong. It might be, hey, Kirsten, you didn't call it out. You saw it right in front of you. You have to be aware of what's happening in your environment, right? So we really want to have them be responsible and have them really say something and discuss it. And then the people, you got to pick the right people. They carry your culture every day, and it can be a heavy burden, but you have to pick the right people. A couple of things I would share about that, some coaches I've read about over the years. Tommy Lasorda was a baseball coach for the Dodgers, and he said, you've got this many guys that love you, this many guys that hate you. You got a bunch in the middle. Your job is to keep those middle away from the guys who hate you. Right? Which is a neat way to look at things. But then George Karl, who coached in the NBA for years, he said, take the top 8 players in your practice, in your tryout. Take the top 8. Then cut the next 4 and take the next 4 after that. And when somebody asked him why, he said, the top 8 are going to play, guaranteed. The next 4 really, really want to play, and they're going to bitch and moan about playing time and find all the things to complain about. The other 4 are just happy to be there. They want to try and make it up on the team. So it was an interesting way to look at things. Okay, so different ways to pick teams, but you need to have the right people. And a side note with it is every young player we talk about now, I don't like the way this has been said with the mental health stuff that's happened in the last number of years. People say, well, all these kids have baggage. No, they don't have baggage. They're people. We have to deal with them, all right? But what I said is, what I kind of said to them was, okay, look at it this way. I was on a plane one time and I was thinking about this. If the athletes coming in have the mental ability here to, if they're on a plane, if they can put their baggage in the overhead compartment or under the seat in front of them, they're going to be okay. If they have way too many things on them that prohibit them from being, if they've got to check extra bags, quote unquote, that may be something you have to, remove them for the time being to find them the help while still keeping them involved. So this was a discussion. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole too much, but this was a discussion I had with the coach, and they were saying, like, everybody's got baggage and I got to get rid of them. I don't think that's the way, but you have to identify with young people how you can help them and how you can keep them involved. All right. Another thing with regards to team here, I think this is a way we've gone as coaches, is we've built everything to be coach-centered instead of player-centered. We put them in that little triangle, and this is what the coach is saying, and we're getting it done. Instead of letting the players evolve and let them do things and be creative and find out how to play the game and how to be better, right? We build coach-centered, but we need player-centered. And when I say that, the coach-centered one is all about the needs of us. It feeds our ego. You may have gone into a practice and you've gone into the practice, and at the end he goes, man, that was a good practice. Like, everything was on time. The drills were crisp. They flowed together. What a perfect practice I planned. Everything was great. And very little learning took place, right? So what I'm saying, we need to find out about their needs, where they are in their development, what their needs are, and how we can help their needs, okay? It's not about us. It's about them being more, okay? I'm going to jump into the next one. We're going to talk about another activity we do, but I don't know if there's questions along the way. Should we answer them now, or?
So there's none in the chat box, so I would keep going. But yeah,
Okay.
Anyone that has questions, just type away and I'll stop Fabian if needed.
Great. Okay, so with championship culture, this is a great one. I mean, extremely powerful, right? And we use this here in Cape Breton. I started this with the national team after a discussion we had with Coach McKay. We built this activity and we used it. We tested it. It was like, this is powerful. This really, really works, because you can always bring it up all the time, okay? And I'll show you the activity we do, but so what does championship culture look like, sound like, and feel like, right? How do I know? What can I see that shows me that that's championship culture? What does it sound like? What does it feel like, right? How do I know that this is a championship culture we have going on here, okay? And the activity we do is really quite simple, but it's powerful again. We put this on the board, on a big whiteboard or on sheets of paper, whatever it is, and I have look, and I have good and bad, sound, good and bad, feel, good and bad. And I take the group, and when I break them into groups, I never use more than 3 if possible. When you get over the number of 3 in a group, a voice gets lost somewhere, and we want every voice to be heard. So I might say, what is championship culture? What does good culture look like? Right? And you might say, for us in basketball, we're traveling. We walk into the gym, we look the part, we're dressed well, we've got the same gear, whatever. And bad culture is pants hanging off our butt, blah, blah. So the athletes identify every bit of this. Coaches, as a coach, I've never stepped in and said, what about this? What about this? I let them go till we really, really beat this up. And then we'll come back to it and we'll kind of boil it down some more. And then we'll come back to it and boil it down some more. And what it does is it'll show us, hey, this is what we look like, sound like, and feel like when we're trying to be championship, or we call it gold medal culture at the national team level. And we can use it everywhere. And we can just stop and say, hey, is this sound like championship culture does? And they can go back to their activity that they did, and they can say, no, it's not. Or they can, what you want to try and encourage is them helping each other that way. We did this, and we had an instance overseas where one of the athletes refused, didn't want to help carry bags. She was a diva, right? And she didn't want to help carry bags. She didn't want to help with team equipment, anything. She just wanted to get her bag on the bus or, checked in for the plane and go sit down. And we had a veteran who got a hold of everybody and rallied them in and said, this is not us. This is not how we operate. It's not championship culture, or gold medal culture, as we called it there. We didn't even have to say anything. They brought that. So this is something that we encourage, again, with see something, say something. And we try to talk about how we hold each other accountable. Really, really powerful. You can do it in all different ways. I'll show you another way later if I have time that we use it, but very powerful activity. Another set of questions we ask people, we ask our team, all right? What are the 2 to 3 things that you can do every day to improve your team culture? And what are the 3 things that could prevent you from living our best culture every day? They start to identify the good things, the bad things, and what we, look, sound, and feel like. And it might be something simple as high fives or being on time or things like that, but they identify it. Now they own up to it. It's theirs. All right. So people want to talk about buy-in. This is big, okay, for getting them to buy into these things because they come up with it. All right. Another thing I get hit with a lot is my athletes don't put enough time into this. They don't put enough time. And when we talk about that, here's what I say to them. It's in the space between our best intentions and our action lies something vital, all right? The depth of our commitment. Now, as we go further, the greater the task, the bigger the commitment you need. That's very, very important. And coaches say, well, my athletes don't put enough time in. My athletes don't put enough time in. But I ask this to a lot of coaches because I could still be guilty of saying this, right? But I know I've said it in the past, but I've had to rewire how I thought about this because we've all made appointments with ourselves that we failed to meet, all right? I know every one of us probably said, I'm going to start working out Monday. This is the Monday I'm going to do it. Or, after I get this major project done, I'm going to really invest some time into learning this or reading this or, getting out in my garden or whatever it is. And then we don't show up. All right. So we have to be committed to and show them about that commitment. And what does that look like, sound like, and feel like? Okay. So we want to make sure that they get to show up. So some points I'm going to share with you, it's going to go around a little bit, but there's some coaching points I want to share about culture. So the coaches are your guardians of the culture for sure. And you have to be willing to grow. And all of you are, because you're in a session like this, and I'm in sessions like this all the time trying to grow. We're trying to get ideas, right? But what reason are you giving your kids to be excited at practice, to not feel entitled? I hear all the time, kids are so entitled, but what are we doing to make them excited? And that's a question you have to answer within your own environment. But what are we doing to make kids excited? I had to step back and look at this, and I've challenged my team. I've challenged my group right now is how do we bring more joy to our daily training environment? Every day when we're together, how do we bring more joy to it? There's some great ideas that they've come up with. Not stuff that the younger coach in me would say, oh, let's do this. But I want to let them go because it's theirs and it's going to bring joy. They're going to be excited to be there. Okay? Some more points. Your language and your team language is crucial. We've worked on basically a glossary of terms for our team, and we're constantly updating it and helping teach that language, right? How we're going to address each other and what we're going to do. People want to feel valued, right? Big time. They want to be appreciated. Young kids, they want to know if they're going to be accepted into the group. They want to know if their opinion is going to be heard. Am I going to be appreciated and valued, right? If you bring them in and sit them on the bench forever and don't give them, any kind of attention towards their development, they're not going to feel that, okay? And you absolutely need others to be successful. So who you surround yourself with matters. And we all know that left to their own, players are going to form cliques. It happens. All right. So we want to associate with people we feel most comfy with. So it's your job to make sure everyone's got a voice, right? And giving them that opportunity to speak. Okay. Our culture starts with people. So it's the building and maintaining of relationships. And you got to have honesty and trust. If you don't, not going to support each other through adversity ever. Okay. With that, you got to coach your culture, right? The same way you coach your sport. And as hard as you go after volleyball, basketball, soccer, cycling, whatever it is, you got to coach your culture the same way. And you have to coach the athlete and coach the person. They're not the same. The people have to be valued for who they are, and it has to be separated from their performance. I've had a number of meetings over the years with our athletes, and they've really kind of intertwined themselves too much that this is who they are. And I have to make them separate all these things away from performance. And we show them how we do that because they need to be separate. We can't coach the athlete and the person the same way. It's not what we can do, because when you intertwine that, right, when you intertwine the person performance, you get stress, lack of confidence. People say they choke, but it's all due to everything is hinging on these results, and it impacts who they are. Okay. The connection is crucial. You got to choose truth over harmony. What I mean by that is it can't be all like, I don't want to say anything because I might upset somebody. I want to make sure that there's truth over harmony in this. So when I say that, it's I'm not afraid. We have to build that environment where it's not afraid to speak my mind, to challenge people without being personal, right? So I'm attacking the issue and not the person. And that's something you can teach, okay? Confront issues immediate with a solution approach. Again, it's not about the person, right? It might be about the behavior, but how do we fix the behavior? And then we talk about no meeting after the meeting. So we can't get aside. Everybody's agreed. We're leaving. This is how we're going to do things. And then 3 people get together and say, well, I didn't like what they said, and that was stupid. And we're not allowed to have a meeting after the meeting. And we discuss it all the time. And the best teams I've had here in Cape Breton have actually shut down those meetings after the meeting. They say, nope, you're not allowed to do that. Sorry. And they're leading that, not us as coaches. It's crucial inside and outside your program to have connection, okay? When you know or don't show what's in your heart, you can't make a real connection with others. People say, I've got a lot of coaches say, oh, you can't say that word, heart. You can't say heart. You can't say, it's not about love. I mean, I'm sorry, but it is, all right? It's about how you show that. It's not an inappropriate love and an inappropriate relationship. I'm not talking about that. What I'm talking about is show you care about people genuinely, all right? You need to take the time to talk to people, get to know them, learn their stories. We think that we understand what motivates every person, but you got to listen to them to find out what drives them, what they care about, what they take pride in, what bothers them. I had a discussion with one of my players this week, and she had said to me, she goes, well, I'm really concerned about this whole pandemic and my eligibility. And we talked, I thought it might have been about eligibility. She wants to have children before she's 30 and have her career already set. And she said, I have to. And we had to talk about that. And this is what's the underlying concern. She's scared that her career is going to be in jeopardy and everything else because she wants to have children by a certain age. So we had to unpack everything and kind of put it in the right priorities and in the right kind of boxes for her so she could separate what's going on and just deal with the issues that bother her. So you have to, if you don't listen, you're not going to pick that up. So very, very important to sit down with people and talk to them, okay? And to make genuine connections with other people, you need to bring more than information and experience to the interaction. You got to bring yourself, okay? I'm not big on, hokey sayings and all this stuff. I've never been big on the words on the wall or the T-shirt that motivate you, because as I saw a guy say, the quarterback didn't get interviewed after the game and say, I threw for 300 yards and 4 touchdowns because of that picture of the whale on the wall saying courage. You didn't do it because of that. You did it because of who you are, right? And what skills you have and how you work as a group. But I love this one because you need to bring yourself first, all right? You can't have all the other stuff and show. John Wooden said, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care, right? So it's all about being a genuine person and connecting to them in a great way. So I said it with touch points is what I talk about. Touches matter. Connections matter. Eyes, ears, physical contact. People say touch points don't matter. Everybody loved playing with Steve Nash when he was in the NBA, 2-time MVP. They studied him during those 2-time MVP seasons, those 2 seasons. He averaged, and if you think about this in your sport, 239 high fives a game with his teammates. Averaged. That's an amazing number. He wanted to connect with everybody, and they loved playing with him, right? So when I say touch point, it's that opportunity to connect with somebody. It's all kinds of possibilities. Everyone you go into can build or break a relationship. A brief little interaction can change the way people think about you, the leaders, the future in the program, right? Sometimes the statement, you can do better, goes a long way to helping them with confidence, encourage them to stretch. And it might be a simple walk up behind them. And I'll use Kirsty as an example. I might just, and she's in practice, and I just very quietly walk up behind her. Kirsty, that last possession where you did, X skill, you did that phenomenally. Everything was perfect. But I think you can do a little better. I think you can just improve this little aspect. She feels good about improving, right? And if we frame it the way that we can do better, often athletes will say, hey, I can do better. And they'll try to stretch. And that's what we want them to do, is stretch a little bit, okay? Every person you engage with got webs of relationships. So you can say something to one person, and then it gets quickly transmitted to 5 or 6 people in that network. This is a brand new theory. I know nobody's ever heard of gossip in an organization. It's kind of this new thing that's coming out. So this is what they're talking about. Brand new, never heard before, right? But gossip happens, and it's very, very important to make sure these touch points are good and solid, okay? One of the most important aspects that's hard for us is listening, all right? Very hard to do. most leaders want to go into action and coaches want action. And when you're listening, you feel like you're not doing, okay? It's the idea of not trying to solve all the issues because we want to jump in and fix. And I will say this, studying communication, you know, male and female communication, this has been studied as a male problem, all right? That males want to jump in and fix the problem right away, right? And you want to be an active listener, okay? So you assume what they're going to say instead of listening. So we want to make sure we take the time to listen. Let them solve the issue, all right? You might get to learn some things that you didn't learn before, right? And I've learned a ton the last little while after changing my ways with this. I've learned a ton from my players. And what I've done, honestly, we're working on a particular one now. I can't get into it because it'd be too long to talk about it, but there's a particular challenge to them. And they are fixing the whole thing, and they want all the answers. They're like, well, what do you want us to do here? What do you want us to do here? What do you want us to do here? I said, no, you have the parameters. Find a solution. And I let them go with their creativity, let them go with their discussion, and it's all them. And our coaches want to jump in and listen to them talk. No, get away from them. Let them figure it out. And we'll learn some things from it as well. Okay, so it's that ability to let them connect and you connect with them. Another thing we use a lot with the national team stuff is self-awareness. Okay, self-awareness is one of the most important things, and we call it KYP, or know your people. All right, now Coach McKay is going to know your people, know your plays, but know your people. So we want to build vulnerability into our culture. It helps create trust. It absolutely does. All right, so an example we use discussing strengths and weaknesses, or what we call anchors and limiting factors, okay? So for, let's say Kirsty again, she has to identify these for herself. But now we're gonna speak it to the group, all right? So Kirsty's gonna say, my anchor, and your anchor is when the storm is on the court, on the pitch, in the rink, whatever, when that storm is on and things are going bad, what do you hold on to that really is going to, you know, keep you strong and keep you confident? What's your biggest strength? And we use our limiting factor saying, okay, what right now is stopping you, Kirsty, from getting on the court, from playing the game, or from basically improving in an area you want to improve? What's slowing you down? So you know that, and now you speak it to the group, and everybody shares that in front of the group. So I know that Kirsty says her strength is shooting the three-point shot. And if I'm a point guard, I know, okay, she feels pretty good about shooting the three-point shot. I'm going to make sure I get her open three-point shots if I can, to help build on that, right? So we remind them when they use a strength, but only when they go above and beyond a little bit, right? We don't want to thank the milkman for delivering the milk. We want to make sure that it's a little bit more above and beyond, but we want to be able to understand, instead of the coaches, because you've got enough on your plate right now, we build a culture of rewarding too, where, for instance, if I'm coaching and I don't see it, right? But somebody says to Kirsty, hey, great job. I see, you went under pressure and used your left hand on 2 feet at the basket. And that was, you don't have to go into a big, long thing, but great job. You did it. So you understand what her weakness was, what she's trying to get better at, and you reward that. And again, you light her up. You make her feel good. You give her more confidence to try that again, right? And we put this in a context of all of our workouts now and practices. It's like, if you screw up, I tell our kids all the time, if you screw up, do it with energy. I don't care if you screw up, just try. And when we try, then we can figure out what's going on. And when they do it right, I reward that. It might be quiet. It might be verbal out in front of everybody. But the first thing I look for is everybody doing that first, right? To try and make sure we have that culture of, being grateful for what people are trying to do and helping them get better. All right. So it's knowing your people. And that's a way for you to get to know them and for each other to get to know them. Your group will get a whole lot stronger if you can do this and get this out on the table, because people aren't afraid to speak and then they know what's going on. Okay. I know we're getting close to time, but one of the things I wanted to talk about too, just really quickly, is this right here. All right. PIDS, as Coach McKay labeled them, and I don't know where he got it, but we stole it. Personal isolation devices. They're destroying teams and opportunities to build your culture. So you got to build a policy right away and share it with your team, okay? Better yet, have your team build the policy. When is team time? When is personal time? I know, right? I hope I'm wrong, but maybe as coaches, you've checked your phone during this last 50 minutes, all right? It's what we're connected to so much right now, okay? We have athletes that go in the locker room at halftime and we've gone in and they've been on their phone, all right? We've seen professional athletes do that. Or after practice, they go right to their phone, okay? We have to talk about and make parameters for connection time, and it's not connecting through texts, okay? So I do have another little section, but I'm going to, first off, I want us to look at, all right, as culture follow-up with your group. How do you define it? How do you define your own culture, all right? Then how do you teach it, all right? How do you live it every day? That's the most important part, okay? How do you live it, okay? How do you measure what's going on, and how do you reward it? Remember, if you reward it, it gets repeated, all right? The behavior that you rewarded gets repeated all the time. So those are the 5 things I use with regards to culture and how we teach this. So I know, Kirsty, I have one other small section. I don't know if we want to go through with it or the coaches want to continue. It's just a small section on our daily training environment.
Yeah, I think we're good. I think it'd be worth it, Fabian. Maybe what we can do is, if anyone has any questions up to this point, if you could throw them in the chat box now, it'd be great. But yeah, I think we should go through. How long do you think it is, Fabian?
It's only a couple minutes. Really.
Go for it.
Go quickly.
Yeah, we want to hear from you. Keep on going.
I'll go as quickly as I can and then take some questions. So one of the things I think is really important about culture is your daily training environment, okay? We have to understand about athletes, they don't play better when they feel worse. So it's what environment are we creating, okay? We do this with our players, with our coaches. What does a gold medal training session look like, sound like, and feel like? And I'm going to share with you some of the things we talk about with Canada Basketball for some of these gold medal training sessions. I took some things out, but I'll try to be quick here. But one of the big things you need to understand with your daily training environment is this, hugely important. What will success look like today? As a coach, you need to know that. We need to have the players understand that. Who do I need to connect with, and how will I do it today? Maybe it's before practice. I need to connect with Shania because I got to talk to her about something, right? And how am I going to do that? And it's not over text, right? That's the last resort, okay? Is everyone clear on what success looks like today? How can I support you today? As a coach leader, what can you do to help the athlete shine? That's your job every single day. And who do I choose to be today? Am I the right version of me that I need to be for my athletes? As I enter the gym, I'm an emotional person. I've had times where I've had incredibly rotten practices because I put myself in that mindset. I've really had to work at this over the last number of years, trying to evolve and make sure I'm more aware of what they need, not me, okay? And all I'm looking at here is when you say, what will success look today? What does 1% per day look like? To improve by 1% throughout the whole organization. We have stats, we have analytics, we have video, but what does 1% look like from sports science perspective? What about a mental performance perspective? What about our culture? What about improving our culture 1% today? Instead of looking at 50%, what does 1% look like? So how do you as a leader and the coach help build that? This daily training environment questions, I've got these saved now for me, and I go through these all the time thinking about it, all right? I've done it earlier today because we have a session later. It's what does it look like today? What do I want it to look like? And then if it gets ugly, that's okay. We're going to try to create learning, all right? I think you have to build into your daily training environment the ability for failure. And how does your team react to it? Where does most of your attention go during practice and games? If you focus on avoiding mistakes, that's where your team energy goes. It's a bottomless drain, okay? That was one everybody said, oh, you're so focused on the details and everything has to be perfect. And that's why we never got to maybe the next step. It was all about trying to figure out a way to learn from failure, creating an environment where failure while seeking solutions is allowed, right? I tell them all the time, you're allowed to fail, just try, put in the effort, right? Then we're creating the ground where they're going, okay, I can try this, I can do this. And when you start to ask questions, they have a better feel instead of trying to give you the right answer because they know you don't want a mistake, right? Your energy flows where your attention goes all the time. So we really work hard to build in failure, and I think you have to do the same. Let them fail. Let them learn how to grow, okay? Our daily schedule, to give you an idea from a basketball standpoint, we have an arrival at the gym. What does it look like, sound like, and feel like, right? The treatment may occur before we go, so it might be getting our stuff done on time so we're not holding people up, but that's championship culture, and that's getting ready for practice. Our individual treatment or prehab at the facility wherever we go, right? What do we do? What's our individual warm-up? What does excellence look like there? What does it sound like? What's it feel like? So you get the idea where we're going with this. Our team prehab, when we do that, our movement prep, our basketball warm-up, teaching, learning, and competing when we're in practice and we're in these phases of practice, and I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole right now, but it's what does that look like, sound like, and feel like to be gold medal, okay? error detection and correction, read like a book. Does your practice read that way? And then post-practice, your cool down, recovery, debriefing, okay? Your daily schedule is very, very important. And again, I can send this stuff to you if you don't, if I'm going too fast and you don't have time to write it down if you're looking for it. But other ways we build culture into the daily training environment is keeping score. So we use stats, right? In national team level, we use a lot more than we do in Cape Breton, and it's partly because here we don't have the ability to do so because of people, right? But we keep track of in-practice stats, so it might be field goal percentage. It might be assists to turnovers. It might be fouls drawn, some things that we feel are important to us. Rebounds, how we do it, right? We use video clips in practice. We show players and we validate their stats. We've gone now at the next level. When we're on the bench, there's video being basically can be beamed down to us on the bench and we can see it and watch it with the players, okay? Then there's the eye of the expert using iPads in practice to film things and be able to show them right away. There's so many apps that you can use to help players. And as I talked to Coach McKay about this, there's one that we use quite a lot. It's called Coach's Eye. Many of you probably have it. But people will complain about paying $5 or $6 for an app, but they'll spend $40 on a video that teaches them a couple of things instead of one that teaches the athletes every day. Okay, so use the eye of the expert. So use an iPad, your iPhone, whatever it is, okay? And then efficiency stats and video clips, we're constantly using those. So those are some ways we do to keep score. The other way we do this, which I enjoy, is we have what we call a player's scoreboard, right? And it's very simple. It's visible. We have a big whiteboard in our practice. Quickly and clearly let you know if you're winning. We like to induce competitive stress, right? We're not trying to overwhelm them, just induce some competition stress to see how they respond before we get into competition. And we put the board up, it just adds a level. Last year I put the board up and one of our players says, well, I don't like this because I'm going to be seeing where I'm at. I said, well, this is about competition. 2 weeks time, she was at or near the top every day. So it's about challenging them to find their competitive self and how they become better, all right? Shows the outcome in the process. So example, a coach tells a player before the drill, we want to improve our field goal percentage, that's the outcome, using on balance and practice shots. That's the process. So we can chart those things and we show them on the board, all right? So we have a whiteboard with the visible stats. So beat the GOAT, beat the greatest of all time, might be the best shooter, right? Kirsty's got the record for this many threes in this drill or whatever it is, and we're trying to beat the records. We have a ball rack where we might use the ball rack as we put 5 basketballs on the ball rack. And if we have 5 turnovers, game's over, right? If every turnover we take a ball off the rack, if the rack's empty, well, we're in trouble, right? We just lost. So how do we improve the process here to not have that loss happen again? And they debrief that and talk about it, okay? And again, we can use the big scoreboard up top, absolutely. iPad apps, there's all kinds of scoring apps that we use. And then the last thing here, I think, is accountability to process. I believe this is the last one I have. So it's a debrief meeting. Hear them speak first and not always the same voice. Always, or quite often, the same person wants to talk all the time. So hear them speak first, right? And then maybe ask someone, or cold calls, I might say, okay, I need to hear about this drill. What do we do really well today that we want to take with us tomorrow? Kirsty, tell me about that. And now it's like she's got to jump on it right away. And now everybody else is going, oh, I might get called next. And now they're dialing into what's going on, okay? Accountability to what's happening. So you need to be accountable to the process. So what happened? What'd you learn? What are the next steps? What do we do in the next training session, right? One thing you can do in the next session, something like that. Oh, I did have, this gold medal video session. I know I'm going pretty quick, but I wanted to share what we do with the national team with a gold medal video session. I've shortened it a little bit based on my own experience, but maximum 30 minutes in length, okay? Some people say an hour. We say 30 minutes. Positive versus negative, depends on how you want to go with it. You can go in there and just totally berate people. It's not going to work. I will tell from my standpoint, the very first time you use video, or most times you use video in a practice, after a practice or game, the players are going to say, well, I look this, or I look that, or look how I look in those shorts. Or it's going to happen. So you need to teach them how to watch video, and it's got to be positive. You can have an us versus them. So you can really focus on us, or you can really focus on your opponent coming up, or blend that in. And then coach-led versus player-led. I don't like coach-led as much anymore. It used to be, this is what we're going to do. I don't like that as much, okay? So we have the room and the clips prepared ahead of time. If the players have watched video on their own, that's the best, okay? we start by asking questions about what's going to be watched. See what's already in their cup, what they have in their mind already. We randomly ask questions, so everybody's got to be ready, okay? We show a clip, we freeze it, and then they say, what do you see? What did you see here? And then we might ask them about solutions, like what could happen next? And they start to dig into it to learn translating the video stuff to what's in their mind on the court and relaying it back and forth. And at the end, you group the players. What did you learn? Summarize it, all right? Your job is to make sure you covered the key points. So what key points they come up with. If you do this and they come up with 5 things that aren't even close to what you were trying to focus on, you may have to look at how you've structured that and the kind of way you've emphasized things, okay? So I know I breezed through that really quick because I wanted to get it covered. Is there any questions at all?
Yeah, thank you so much, Fabian. I do know we have a couple coaches wondering if you could send out the presentation so we could PDF it and I could email it out to everyone if you want to fire it over to me if you're comfortable with that.
I can get that PDF'd and sent to you.
Okay, perfect.
I'm just making a note.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so you guys, yeah, type in some questions if you have some, or if you want to just put your hand up and then we can get you to unmute yourself. There we go. We have one for you, Fabian. For video clips.
Yeah.
Do you focus more on what they did well or what needs work?
Great question. I've done both, and what I try to look at now is what I try to figure out is where are they? So what do they need? If they need that, like we've talked about this a number of times, and I've thrown this at Coach McKenzie. I'm working on another whole document on this type of thing right now, putting together some ideas, and we look at what they need right now. So it might be we start them from a strength in a drill or from a strength in the video, because they need to see themselves doing well. Their confidence is maybe down a little bit, so we show them what's good, all right? And then it might be where we really need to stretch them or challenge them, and they're feeling pretty good right now. We might show them, this is what needs to work on, right? And we'll show them that clip. But it can't always be that way, so I understand that. So it might be, hey, I'm gonna take Kirsty and then we're really gonna make sure that she understands that it's not about beating her up, it's about improving this skill. Right? We're not showing him, we have to teach the players that it's not about you making mistakes, you're allowed. But now how do we fix it so that improves for you and we don't make that same mistake? So we'll show it to them, but we try to figure out what they need first. I hope that answers that for Lynn.
Okay, let us know, Lynn. But you do have another question as well. How do you make national level players with intermediate level players? That's a big one.
That's a huge question. But I will say this, with us in Canada basketball, we've had some tremendous athletes that have been identified early as absolute stars, and they don't become that. And then we have players that are, like you say, mid-level players. They're not projected to be really good. Like they wouldn't be on the senior national team radar. And then through development and through work, right, it's that ability, as everybody uses the catchphrase, grit right now. But we get to know who they are. We get to know their skills and try to fit them into a place where they can contribute. So we have one player, I won't mention her name. She was never destined to be a senior national team player. She spent a lot of time in the development team when I coached it. I believe it was 3 or 4 years, and we just picked one out every single year. We're going to work on this. We're putting tools in the toolbox that she can fit into a role at the next level. Can she be 30 points a game? Nope. She can't be. She doesn't have that skill set, but she's an incredibly valuable contributor in a lot of other ways. So it's basically the perseverance in identifying as much as you can early. I hope that answers that.
I think that would. That was a great answer.
Okay.
Another great question. If you have limited personnel on your coaching staff, so say one assistant coach, what or how do you prioritize the use of them and what did they do?
Well, I've lived that. So Megan, that's a great question. I've lived that up till this year. I've had a graduate assistant coach helping me this year as well, but I've had one coach been with me for 22 years. A couple other years we had some assistant coaches, but they didn't stay for a number of reasons, and it's work related, life related. But my assistant's been with me for 22 years. So we've kind of developed roles over time. We don't even have to speak about it now. It's like, each other so well, right? But he takes care of certain things during games. I don't even ask because he's got that. And we have that flow on the bench. So for us, he's in control of our statistical stuff on the bench. letting me know of certain trends and fouls and timeouts and all those things we need to know, and strategical things like that of the other teams with fouls or whatever, who we have to attack or quote unquote. He's also looking at minutes and play, because I'm constantly up and down the sidelines and I'm not always thinking about subs. I am thinking about game flow and everything else, but he's on me about subs and who can be in for what matchup and where. So that's his thing. And we talk about that before. It's not like, he controls everything and I control everything. Beforehand, before a game, he'll say, okay, who do we want first today in this spot? Who do we want first in this spot, matchup wise and potential? So we're talking about it strategically that way. In practice, he has certain things he's always looked at. So I've trusted him to look at that, right? For him, it's certain technical aspects. For me, it's others. With our young graduate assistant, we've had to tell her now, like exactly, what she's got to look at in practice and trying to teach her what to see. I hope that answers that, Megan, but feel free to add on.
Okay, thank you, Fabian. So if anyone else has any last minute questions, throw them in there. And there's a couple people that have to pop off, so feel free. Thanks so much for coming.
Yeah, really appreciate it.
Yeah, before we lose everyone, I do want to let you know our next podium session is the night of November 18th, and it's Dispelling Myths in Youth Sport with David Hancock. That one's hosted by Newfoundland, so it's in the locker under Newfoundland, or it's on our website, on the CSCA website. And then we have another daytime one, November 24th, which will be a really cool session with a motorsport-based sports scientist who's done a lot of work in analytics, so it'll be quite interesting. So does anyone else have any last questions for Fabian? And Fabian, it sounds like everyone really enjoyed the presentation. I know Kirsty and I certainly did.
Any questions? I'm open by email, phone, anything. Like, I want to share everything. So feel free, fire away, and I'll give you the exercises we do or whatever you want.
Okay, well, thank you so much. Thank you for spending the time with us on here today. And I think the coaches, it was a great group. Thank you guys for joining. And it sounds like everyone really enjoyed it.
It was great. Thanks for the opportunity.